Welcome or welcome back. Today I am talking about jumping to the best possible conclusion. In those moments where it appears that reality isn't going your way and you want to make up a shitty story, I'm going to help you to turn that around and jump to the best conclusion that you can possibly come up with. So stick around. Thank you for being here. My name is Hedley. I am a qualified life coach and I'm also an author. And I'm also super passionate about the amazing teachings of the law of assumption as originally taught by the great American mystic Neville Goddard. It is the assumptions that we make that create our life. So if you want to change your life, then you have to change the assumptions that you're making. I call them stories, assumptions, they're all the same thing. And if you would like to create the most amazing life, then you need to know how to make up the most amazing assumptions or stories, however way you want to do it. You just got to make it up and then stick with it. Since rediscovering these teachings, I have been telling myself much better stories and making up much better assumptions, although sometimes I have been caught out, which I'll talk about today. And I want to help you to do the same. So if you would like further support with this, I am available for one-to-one coaching. I'm also on Instagram and I have a free 21-day Set Yourself Up with the Ultimate Self-Concept course, which is super important in this work. Your self-concept is everything. So you can instantly access that now. All of those details are in the comments box below. Okay, let's get into it. So today I am talking about jumping to the best conclusion. And as is the case with many of these videos, the inspiration came from an experience I had recently where I did the opposite because I am a student of these teachings as much as anybody else. I am working with them every day. I love them. They are amazing. They are a game changer. However, it is often challenging work as well. We are fronting up to the stories, the negative stories, the shitty stories that we've been telling ourselves for a really long time. We are also up against a conditioning of believing that reality is happening to us and that we have no cause or influence over us. You know, I really do get that this is the way to play the game of life. Like, these teachings will help you play the game of life. Like, once you know the rules, you're the god of your reality, and what you imagine in your imagination will get pushed out and reflected back in your reality. Like, once you get that, those are the rules of the game, then you know how to play and then you can play. But while we're getting into these teachings, it can be a little bit challenging when we're up against our negative stories and things don't always go the way we imagine them. But what it's doing is it's clearing out, like it's moving us towards what it is that we want and helping us to clear out those negative stories and input new ones and new positive stories that will eventually get reflected back. And that's the name of this game. You have to persist with things. I have been really working on my story, my self-concept. I do that every day, regardless of what's going on. I always start the day with the story that I tell about myself, about who I am, using the powerful I am statements, working with creating the new stories in my imagination of the outcomes that I want to experience. And then the other day, just recently, I had a situation that emerged where I was talking with a person and it was related to somebody that I was involved with. I'm not going to go into the story because it's irrelevant, and I always revise any unfavorable story and then I no longer need to talk about them because I have revised them. And you can't serve two masters in this game. You can't be focusing on one story and then telling the old story. That is why I don't go into the details of the old stories, but there was this thing that happened in my reality. And what was really interesting was, despite the work that I have been doing on myself in this last year, like really diligently, this thing happened and I just jumped to the worst conclusion. Like, I just made up a story so fast. It was so fast I couldn't catch it. The reaction in my body was already playing out before I had time to catch the story that had created the assumption that I had been made before my body reacted. Because your body follows, everything follows imagination. Your body follows your imagination. You can have a shitty thought right now and that will be reflected in your body. And in fact, I was talking with a client recently and I was sharing something that was said to me by an acupuncturist that I saw many years ago when I was dealing with some health issues, where they said the mind-body connection, you know how we think about the mind-body connection being this connection, like between the mind and body. And this acupuncturist said to me, there is no connection. It's the same thing. The mind and body are the same. And when you have a thought or when you tell a story or when you make up an assumption, that immediately gets reflected back in your body. It's the same thing. It's the expression of consciousness. Like everything else in this physical world is an expression of consciousness, and some of those get expressed instantly. And I certainly experienced that with my health issue, which I might actually do a video on at some point. However, back to the point. What had happened is I was in this situation, I reacted, I made up a story, story, before I was even consciously aware that I'd made up a story, my body then took over. So my body was having a physical experience, like a fight or flight, like there was a lot of anger that came up within me, and I could feel this anger and rising, and I wanted to react, and I've done enough work now to know that, hang on a second, just hold up, like just cool your jets. I know how this game works. And I was able to just work with myself going, look, I know I'm the creator of my reality. And once I had some time to reflect on the situation, I was amazed at how quickly I had jumped to the worst possible scenario. And I realized, based on how I was feeling, which was really shitty, that was a shitty story to be telling. And it felt really real. And that's the trick with this. When you're in those moments, when you're in those immediate reactions that are so quick, they happen so fast that, like you get triggered, and then it happens so quickly that you can't law of assumption your way out of it while you're in it, because you're so in the physical experience. It's like a fight or flight mode. You just have to kind of manage that process while you're in it, like hold yourself until it passes as best you can, and just like not react as best you can. And then what I did was I went back and I went, all right, if I had that time again, which of course I can because I revise everything, because consciousness is happening now, everything is happening now, all possibilities exist in the here and now, so everything can be revised and everything can be recreated. So now that I have that tool, I was able to go back and replay it and then come up with a better story. It's all just a story. Like, there was no truth in anything. I just made something up on the spot based on what was coming to me from my reality. And I made up a shitty story where I don't get everything that I want, and I'm the one that misses out, and I'm not loved, and I'm not wanted, and I'm not worthy, and all of that. Like the really old story, the old core story just jumped up and bit me. And I was able to go back and rewrite the story where that was the opposite. So basically I went from the worst conclusion to the best conclusion. They're just stories, like neither are true. They only become true when I focus in on and persist with the one that I've decided that I'm going to focus on. Now, in the past, prior to these teachings, I would have absolutely ruminated on the worst possible scenario, so the worst conclusion. I would have just stuck with that story, run it out a million times, and just created a physical sensation in my body that would have felt shitty, and I would have felt shitty for days. So this time I was able to quickly, once I had some breathing space, I was able to go back, revise the situation, create a new conclusion, completely opposite to the one I originally jumped to, and then focused in on that and just stuck to that. Now that takes practice, let me tell you. And what will happen is, and I know this from my own experience, is when you practice this stuff, when you work with this stuff with compassion for yourself, with forgiveness for yourself, what will eventually happen was a situation like that will come up again, and I will be able to jump in that moment to the best conclusion. So this is all progress. We're all about making progress. We're not about perfection here. This is not about being perfect and getting it right every single time. It's about improving. It's about making progress. It's about loving yourself. It's about forgiving yourself. It's about being your best effing friend that you can possibly be to yourself. Loving yourself more than anyone could possibly love you, because that is what you need. When you can love yourself like that, then you can really love everybody else like that. But until you do it with yourself first, it is impossible to give that to anybody else. And it really starts in these moments where you want to jump to the worst conclusion. Instead of doing that, you want to create the best conclusions and continue to jump to those. It's about practicing doing that, and then eventually you absolutely will get it where you just immediately, anything can happen in your reality and you will immediately jump to the best possible story, like instantly. And you'll just have this beautiful experience flood your body that will respond to that beautiful story that you're now telling, that's now natural for you to tell. And that's what this is about. It's about creating stories that feel good and natural, and that have us as the star of our shows. So many of us, we write ourselves out of our own movies before we've even stepped on stage. Like before even anything's happened, we've written ourselves out, and we've written these amazing stories for everybody else, thinking that, oh well, they're so much better than me, and they're this and they're that, and I could never have that, and blah, 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 blah. It is not true. It is only true if we decide to persist with focusing on it. We are all awakening in our own way, in our own time. It's a beautiful process. It's sometimes a challenging process, but it's the most amazing, rewarding, enlightening, fulfilling process that you can ever possibly hope to have. So I hope this video has inspired you to jump to the best conclusion that you can jump to. And in those moments where reality shows up and goes, you just immediately jump to that amazing conclusion where you're like, of course I'm loved, of course I'm wanted, of course they want me, of course they're choosing me. Like, of course. Let that become the most natural story that you tell. Please remember, you are the creators of your reality. You are the superstar of your show. You are the writer, the director, the producer, and the actor in your movie. What you assume to be true will be so. So assume the best for you and assume the best for everyone in your movie too, and you will have an amazing life. This is my wish for you. Thanks for being here. Please feel free to like, comment, and share this video with family and friends. If you would like to subscribe to my channel, I would love to have you. I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks. Bye.